It's the morning of November 13th, and Elliot and I are set up in the mud hole stand this morning. We got in real clean, it seemed like. The ground is damp from all the sleet and rain yesterday mixed with snow, so it was real quiet getting in, and we got about a 10-mile-an-hour northwest wind that covered up any noise that we would have made. It's about 34 degrees and a pretty clear morning. We're in here after R2. We know this is a travel corridor of his, and we know he's been in the area a lot. The neighbors saw him yesterday while they were getting a deer out, and it seems like there's more and more deer entering this property every day as it gets later, because we've got a lot of food here, so pretty soon there's going to be a lot of does here, and I think we got a real good chance at seeing R2, so it should be a real good morning. Hopefully we can get a glimpse of him. Here he comes. That's future right there. What? That's future. Oh yeah, he did. That's nice looking. Look at him. That's him. Well, it's a little bit after 11 o'clock, and Shelfeffer and I were just sitting here second guessing ourselves whether or not we're in the right spot, and we've had some does filtering around and just milling around over here to the north of this grass field, and I caught a glimpse of a bigger bodied deer. Once it got into the clearing, I could see that it was R2. He came up from the north and was sent checking all those does over there. At one point it looked like the doe that he was chasing was going to come up over the ridge right to us, but she ended up veering off to the north, and he kind of spun around and went back to the west. We're in the ball game. He didn't go too far. He's just milling around over there yet, so maybe we can catch him midday. He's gonna die. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Did it feel good? It felt good. It looked good. It might have been just a touch back, and he might have been quartering too. Oh, he's going down. He's going down. He's going down. Oh my God, dude. I can't believe it. We finally got it. The legend of R2 is over, man. What a hunt. All they said paid off. That doe. It's a miracle for all the things that have ever gone wrong in bow hunting. That doe below us, he followed her right here, and she was right under the tree for, I don't know, 2 minutes. And he just stood there forever. And eventually she was getting a little weird, and she made a little move, and he wrapped around the backside of the tree, and I smoked him, or shot him at like 14 yards. I don't know, it's like right where Grumps was last year. But he bounded 20 yards and fell over. Oh my God, that was unbelievable. I don't even know what to say. The legend of R2 is over. I'm so happy. I don't even know. Thanks for being here, buddy. Oh. What up there? Well, guys, he threw us for a bit of a loop. We saw him bed down, and we thought he was gonna die right there. And Shellpfeffer and I kind of got a little overexcited and didn't. We thought he tipped over right there, but he ended up just bedding down, and he went about another 200 yards, and we finally found him after not too bad of a blood trail. But the story of R2 is unbelievable. I'm excited to share it with you guys, and I just can't believe I got him. He's a stud. I believe he's 5.5, and I let him go a bunch last year, and it paid off in a big way. Thank you, guys. I'm still kind of in shock that it has actually happened. And I just want to give you guys a little story of the history of this deer. It's pretty incredible, really. Back in 2019 is when I first got pictures of him at what I believe was a 3-year-old deer. He lived to the north for the beginning of 2019. I have a friend that has some property he can hunt about a mile or two north of the property that we hunt. And he had a whole bunch of pictures of him in early to mid-October as a 3-year-old, and to my knowledge, I didn't recognize the deer at that point. I don't think that he really lived by us as a 1 and a 2-year-old, but it seemed like towards the middle of October, when I believe he was a 3-year-old, he moved in to our property and really took up residence. We ended up seeing this deer quite a bit on the cameras, and then on October 30th in 2019, it was a pretty well documented hunt of me and Elliot. Elliot shot the buck that we called Barbs that turned out to be a 6.5-year-old deer. And right before Elliot had shot him, I let this deer go at what I believe was his 3-year-old rack. Boy, I'm glad that I let him go, because I just had no idea what was in store the next couple of years. And so the season went on, and I ended up tagging out on a buck that I called Crowns 2 days earlier. We continued to have a couple encounters with them. We saw him out in our food plots late season. I believe December 6th we saw him out there with a bunch of other bucks late season and some post-rut activity. His frame and tines and everything that he had going on just resembled the deer that I was after the year before that I had called Royals. So the name R2 came from Royals 2. We never ended up picking up his sheds. We continued to get pictures of him throughout all late season in 2019. And then 2020 rolled around, and he just blew up into what I figure he was right around 160. He just blew up into a nice, typical 10-pointer, mainframe 10-pointer with split G2s. I had planned on targeting him that year. I also had a buck that year that I was after that I was calling Thrasher. They were the 2 deer that I was going to target that year, and I would say Thrasher was probably my #1 hit lister. I actually ended up missing R2 on October 1st in 2020. I hit a sapling and the arrow stuck right in that sapling, and I never ended up hitting the deer or anything, and he got away clean. The year went on and I was really targeting Thrasher, and we did have a couple encounters with R2 there in the early rut, beginning of November, and we just never got another shot opportunity at him. Thrasher, my #1 target buck, ended up getting harvested by the neighbor, and I wasn't aware of it. So for the opening weekend of gun season, I had my heart set on Thrasher, and that was the only deer that I was gonna shoot. And wouldn't you know it, R2 came past opening morning, and I actually let him go, and I couldn't believe that I let a deer go that big, but I had my heart set on Thrasher at the time. Little did I know I was actually chasing a ghost. So from then on, I ended up finding out that Thrasher was harvested, and I figured, well, I had already passed R2. I kind of wanted to see what he was gonna do the next year, thinking that he was probably gonna be a 5-year-old. So the season 2021 rolls around, and we just did not get a lot of velvet pictures of him. I only got 1 velvet picture of him. I think he spent a lot of time in this big block of timber just eating corns and sitting back, and we just seemed to have a hard time either getting any velvet footage of him or getting pictures of him in that case. So the season rolled around, and I absolutely was gonna target this deer and this deer only. We have some other good ones that are around, but I told myself I'm only going to shoot R2 this year. Man, it was a grind. We had a couple all-day sits last week on our vacation the first week of November, and never had a run-in with them. And November 13th was actually the first time that we saw him in daylight this year. And man, it couldn't have happened any better. I got so many people to thank for helping me with all the off-season work that we put in, and Elliot for sticking by me even though he was tagged out and filming, and all my friends and my dad for everything that for all the work that we put in helping with everything that we do. So I couldn't be happier. He is my biggest buck to date, and it's just such a good story with him, and I couldn't be more blessed to be the one that got him. I know there's a lot of people that were hoping to get a shot at him. So the legend of R2 is pretty unbelievable, and I couldn't be happier to have gotten him. Thank you guys, and thanks for tuning in to Midwest Whitetail.
Looks like it's right in there for a 10 spotter. Pretty good breeze today so far. I don't know if it's supposed to lay down at dusk, sunset, or not. Bam! Right in there, boys. Right in the pump station. That's where we need to be. All right, put her back to 20. We don't want to make that mistake, Jared. I'm practicing for the big shoot against Jared and Mike. Did you watch the podcast? Inquiring viewers wanted to know who was the better shot, so I got to at least put up a fight against these boys. All right, Mike and Jared, I'll have you know that's another 10. One thing I do know is I'm always shooting out here for the camera, not afraid to put myself out there. Do you ever see those guys shooting out there, shooting at targets? I don't know what they're scared of. Somebody's scared, I think. Let's get ready and go hunting. I think we got a good shot to see this wide 8 today. All right, guys, we're ready to do this thing. Alright guys, we're back at it November 16th. It's only 2:14, so we're getting in here good and early. We're back after that wide 8 again. It's kind of a toss-up if we should go back to that eagle's nest we hunted the other morning. Yesterday morning, I think. He's been on that camera quite a bit, but he's also been on that rubbing post right there quite a bit too, so just a toss-up which one to go to. It's warmed up quite a bit. It's about 65, I think, with a 10 to 15 mile an hour south wind, which is carrying across the creek that way. The last couple times we hunted here, all the deer tend to gravitate down toward this tree, and about every one of them was in shooting range, so let's hope that trend continues. Got a little over 3 hours to set in here, so we'll get settled in and see what happens. Yeah. Whoa! Oh my God, buddy! We were not here, what, 10 minutes? Oh, that's unreal. Oh. No way! Just walked on a string to us. Oh my gosh! I was just sitting there, daydreaming or whatever, and I just kind of glanced over and I go, Joe, there he is. It's not even 3 o'clock, it's like 2:30. That's what we were talking about with him being locked down. You just gotta find the one time he's not. We just talked about on the podcast last night, I said I've never killed a good deer from the 15th to the 20th, you know, which is basically lockdown. This was that one day he broke off his doe. Game over, boys. He was getting a little nervous there, wasn't he?
Oh, what is the chances?
Oh my gosh! Alright guys, it's been about, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes. I'm gonna sneak over here and check the blood and see what we got. He shouldn't have went too far with that shot. It looked like it was right in there, so let's creep over here and see what we got. There's some right there. That should be a good sign. Boy, that hit something solid, didn't it? Well, guys, Joey says he sees him right here. I can't even see him. In this tangled up mess, let's go take a look. Let's see what kind of width we got here, Joe. Oh, yeah. Boy, he made an interesting track in him right there. Took us a little bit to find him. That's gotta be one of my widest bucks right there. Right there with him anyway. What a beauty. Let's make this bow season official, guys. I said yesterday on the After Hours podcast I had not killed a good buck between the 15th and the 20th, and we are going to change that. The 16th. Alright guys, well, we got him out here the next day for a little better look at him. Interesting to see what he's done the last couple of years. Let's see, he's been on the list since 2019, so I believe he's 7.5 years old. He could be 6.5, so this would have been 2019 here, and here's what he looked like in 2020. He had a 9th point here in 2020, and then he dropped that this year, but he did put one on the left side here that he broke off. But you know, in the 3 years he's been on the hit list, he's been so elusive. I mean, I don't know how many hours we've got in hunting this deer, or at least in the area where we might see him. And Joe and his wife, they went on a doe hunt down in the same field actually where we just shot him yesterday, and they filmed him. He, of course, that'd be the time he'd walk out, you know, when you're not hunting him, but he got some good footage of him that day, so that's pretty cool. But other than that, we've seen him one time this year, and then just yesterday. So these bucks sometimes are super elusive. Joe and I were talking about that yesterday, and we figured how many hours we had in the tree this year. For 2 bucks, we had about 80 hours per buck. That's just into tree time, not counting any of the prep work, food plots, hanging stands, any of that. So you really got to put your time in. But when it all comes together like it did yesterday, super rewarding. And anytime you can get a buck to this age, you know, that's, for a management guy, that's real rewarding too. You get to see their full potential before you take them. So that's what it's all about. We'll regroup. We'll be back for the gun season. So I appreciate you guys joining us.